Okay. All right. Welcome, everyone. You are in the Priority Equals You workshop. Thank you for joining us and being patient while we set up. We had a little bit of a late start. So, my name is Christine Cow, and I work for the Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse, and I'm the youth coordinator there. And I'm going to be monitoring this session. So, um, the chat is open for anyone if you would like to ask questions, put in comments throughout the session. If you want to do that, if you would like to unmute yourself to ask questions, feel free to do that as well. I'm going to turn it over to our speakers and let them introduce themselves, and we'll get started. Thanks again for joining.
Hello, my name is Clifford Sipes. I also work for the Oklahoma Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services. So what we're gonna do, I'm gonna have our two panelists, and I'm also a panelist to like introduce themselves, and then we have two icebreakers. And the first icebreaker is we're gonna introduce our fur babies after the introductions, and then I have some memes that I wanted to share, and then we'll get into the discussion. All right, Jill, you can go next.
Okay, I'm Jill Amos with the Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services. I was just thinking, I wish we could change our name to Department of Mental Health and Addiction Recovery Services. I was thinking, like, I would like that better. Anyway, I now work for the Employee Assistance Program. So, state employees that need mental health or addiction recovery support call my office. I was with the Peer Recovery Support Program. Yeah, so that if you guys know me, you may know me from there.
All right, Emily.
Sorry, I'm gonna start off by saying I have 4 dogs and they are being obnoxious right now. So excuse them. They are also very pleased to be here. So my name is Emily. I use she, her pronouns. I am with the Department of Health, and I am the violence prevention coordinator in injury prevention services. I just started last week, so very new. Yeah.
All right, so for our first icebreaker, everyone that has introduced themselves is going to introduce their fur babies. And for those of you like Becky, Christy, Rochelle, if you want to, this event is camera optional. So if you would like to, you can also introduce your fur babies if you have any, or if you have any if you have any human babies too, you can introduce those too if you want. But Christine, Emily, I want to call on you first since yours are right there to introduce your fur baby.
There's only one in the room with me right now. Hold on a second. Come here. Come on. All the way up. This is Katie. She is one of my 4. She is the youngest. Adelaide, come here. And this is Adelaide. She is the second oldest. They enjoy hopping into my lap while I'm at my desk. Eloise and Oscar are patrolling, doing something else. So yeah, they are very pleased to be here. And now that they have gotten up, they will probably stay up. So
that's awesome. That's totally fine. All are welcome in this. All right, Christine. Look at Christine. Look at Christine. Here, Christine. I'll try to unmute you. Oh yeah, you have to unmute yourself.
Okay. I have Odie over here, Teddy in the front, and Gizmo over here. They're my 3 puppies. And they're being very good and still right now, which is making me nervous. So they probably see something on the table that they want to eat, or Teddy does. Yeah, here's my fur babies.
Like it looks like a see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil like statue. That's awesome. I don't think I've ever seen them so still. All right, Jillian.
Oh my God, I'm dying. Just like the image of like her with these 3 little heads in her lap. Like, I don't even know how she was holding all of them. But yeah, I've got Kaya dog is back here in the background. She's a now 6 years old golden doodle, and she's chomping on her cheesy bone. And you probably will hear her in the background. It's very serious business. I have 2 cats that will probably drift in and out as we talk, and then we have a standard poodle named Jupiter that is young and just got fancy cut, so he's got little leg warmers. that he made drift in and out as well. So we've got 4 total, and they're a mess.
Eloise
So,
would also like to say hello. She's my oldest.
hello, Eloise. Awesome, awesome. Christy, Becky, Rochelle, would you guys like to share your fur babies at all?
Yes. This is Cobain. He's a good boy. Are you a good boy? And then my cat. What are you doing? Hi.
He's like, whatever, leave me alone.
Oh, she likes the attention. Yeah, don't ya?
All right, awesome. Thanks for sharing. Oops, I muted
Clifford, you're
myself.
on mute. Yeah.
All right. So thanks everyone for sharing. So one of the reasons why we do that is because this this discussion we're having today, it's really, it's about self-care, but it's also like self-care during 2020. And those are like the things that get us through the day. I know that it's like having my human babies and also my fur babies have helped me survive. All right, but the next thing I want to do, just to have some more fun before we dive into the conversation, I have some memes that I shared, and the reason I'm doing this is because memes have definitely got me through 2020, and I'm sure that there's many of you who found memes that have done the same for you. But I'll share these, and some of them are about self-care, some of them aren't. But here is my first one, and I'll let you guys
Weren't we
read
just
it.
talking about that?
Yeah.
How dare you call me out like that, Clifford? Also, this is Oscar.
Hi,
Hello,
Oscar.
Oscar.
And then here's the next one.
See, I always knew that because I don't know, like when I first bought them myself, I turned it around and read it.
Yeah, I didn't do that. I actually, it is actually that meme taught me. But then there's this one.
Oh.
And then here, if 2020 was a Halloween candy.
Ooh. Yeah.
And then here, and so I like this one because one of the things I've done is that I'm in a lot more group chats and like communication apps with like family, with work, than I ever have been before, and this is actually my active participation in them.
It's like you're there, but you're not there.
And then here,
Yes.
and that's it. That is all I have. But anyways, but so again, the reason why I did those things, because it's all the little, I think it's the little things that gets through 2020. But I want to thank everyone for coming to this presentation. I'm really excited about it, and I hope you thought those memes were funny. I hope you enjoyed seeing the animals. What we plan to talk about is really have an open discussion. As Christine said earlier, you can talk in the chat, you can unmute, you can do whatever you'd like, but we wanted to have a discussion about taking care of yourself and making sure that during this time that you are a priority for yourself. I work with a lot of youth and a lot of young adults and a lot of their families, and one of the things that I've learned over the course of my career, but especially this year, is that all of the young people that I work with are incredibly compassionate, and they care about others, and they want to take care of others, and they do those things like they're great friends, they're great partners in relationships. But one of the things that happens is that can be really emotionally draining. It can be really exhausting. There's several youth that I also work with who are college students, and they work, um, and they want to make good grades, they want to be good students. But during this time of 2020 of having to do remote learning, or having the stress of doing an inpatient, or sorry, in-person class, which I'm sure sometimes may feel like impatient, but um, that's also emotionally exhausting and stressful. And so, but one of the things that's the most important is that making sure that you're a priority, making sure that you take time for yourself, making sure that that you're filling up your own cup, because everything in our life takes takes the liquid out of our cup. So always making sure that our cup has water in it, that our cup um, has liquid in it. And when we were planning this, one of my main goals that I wanted to have was I want people to understand that you yourself are a priority, that you yourself have value, that you yourself are important. Because I think that's one of the most important messages that anyone can learn. I think it's one of the most important lessons that anyone can learn. Um, so that's what I hope that you take away from this. I hope that the time that we spend together is enjoyable. I hope that you like it. I hope that you learn something. And so now I'm gonna turn it over to my two friends that I asked to be here. And before I start asking them questions, like my first question will be, just based on the conversation we've had so far, based on the things that we've talked about, is there anything that you'd like to share or say before I dive into the questions I have for you guys?
I'd just like to ask for everybody involved to feel comfortable if you feel comfortable to share a little bit about your experience and your perception of life this year. We've all had our different kind of lens we view things through, and I think everybody's lens is a little maybe cracked, demolished. I don't know. I'm kidding, but I'd like to hear, as someone, and I think all of us, we are interested in how we help and serve others. And we don't often get the feedback from people of here's my experience and here's how this feels, so that we can have a better insight into how other people, are experiencing this as well. So it's hard sometimes to not try to help others from our own perspective only. So to get that input from you guys so that we make sure we're seeing multiple perspectives. So I'd love it if y'all feel comfortable kind of opening up and sharing what it's been like for you.
Definitely. I think that would be really great. And then if y'all feel like, I know it's a small group and I know it's being recorded, so maybe you don't feel comfortable, and that's totally fine. But if you feel like you want to share like anything like about yourself, so like maybe like your age, or like if you're in school or if you're working, just kind of that stuff. So we can, it'll kind of help me to, if I'm talking about one thing and you're like, Emily, that's not relevant to me. Like there's only a couple of people in here. So like, I'll do my best to make it relevant with the information you feel comfortable giving.
Yeah, thank you. So my first question I have, and I'll answer this first, but how have you handled 2020 so far? And so as you guys think about that, I'll take my turn. So um, I so when 2019 ended, I was actually really excited, and I was like, oh, 2020, that's a cool number. I like those numbers. This is going to be a great year. And
Oh
just like
no.
and just like that meme I shared, it was like Happy New Year. And but one of the things that happened to me that I recognize is that this year has been hard for me, like on the macro level, so like the community level, dealing with all the social stuff and just the pandemic. But also, it's been really personally hard for me too, for a variety of reasons. But one of the things that happened to me this year was that I tore my Achilles tendon, and so I had to have surgery, and I had to learn how to walk again. And today I'm walking again, and it's really the first time I've been walking for like probably the last 4 months. But but with all that going on, the place where I live, there's me and my wife and our kids and our dogs. But across the street, my mom lives there, and then down the street, several houses down, my sister lives there. And I was very lucky that whenever the pandemic hit and everything started closing down, was that the people who we decided, I guess, to quarantine with were literally right across the street or right down the street. And one of the things that I learned was that I never realized how much I leaned on those relationships until this time. And I recognize that I'm very lucky because of that. And but I think that this year it has been really, really hard, but it made me more grateful for the most important relationships that I have in my life. So that's something that I will admit, it's been really hard for me. All right,
Goodness,
Jill,
I
Emily,
actually did
oh,
not
Rochelle.
know that you were down for that long. That's really difficult.
Sorry, I started to type my answer and then I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna take my turn. So I've been sitting here like typing up my answer. Derp. Yeah, so the question was how am I handling 2020? How did you word the question?
How how are you handling or surviving 2020?
Yeah, so I'm with you where I was like super excited about the new decade. I've always kind of I've loved like old silent films. I've loved the Roaring 20s, the fashion, all of it. I read books that are set in that time period. So I was like, I get to live in the 20s, and I was so excited. And then the next, like literally New Year's Day, which New Year's is my favorite holiday because I spend it in my head reflecting, but like I buy a new journal for it and everything. It's my favorite holiday. But I wake up, I've got the stomach flu, not hungover. I behaved myself that night. So, but I woke up with the stomach flu. So I'm like barfing and I learned like several people I knew had passed away. And it was like, what? Because I had all these high hopes about, this new beginning. And then it's just, I mean, we all know it's been 2020 since then. So yeah, that feeling, I even look back and I'm like, oh my God, it's almost been a year since then. And I remember that feeling of like new decade, the 20s, like here we go. And then it's like, what has this year been even? Yeah. So, but I'm hanging in there, and I have gained a lot of deeper connection to myself by force. I mean, I was telling Clifford, like, I almost have like this weird new religion of like, the virus wants me to get to know myself, and the virus wants me to take a nap today. But like trying to like get in touch with who I am and really know myself on a deeper level. So I am grateful for that, and I'm definitely taking that from this year. But yeah, that compared to what I was expecting this year or hoping for, it's definitely gone a different direction for sure.
There's some stuff in the chat, Clifford. So I'll read it out loud just in case you didn't see it. Chrissy said, I'm a director for a nonprofit working with people with disabilities. It's been very hard as we are not able to go to their homes to do home visits and see them. Also explaining to them why we can't visit them anymore is very hard for us. And then also, Becky said she works at a youth center and they are mission essential. I'm getting high risk, and even though the thought of getting COVID, I'm scared to death, but I don't want to live in fear. Seeing others complain about wearing a mask makes me feel like no one cares about me, yet I wear mine for everyone else. It's frustrating and makes me angry at times. In the chat, I also put like I can relate to both of your experiences, so that is tough. I just wanted to share that. So you can hear.
Yeah, that's tough. There's actually, when we were having a discussion about like why we social distance and having and choosing to sacrifice like this time and separating ourselves. But I wanted to ask the question because this brings up to a question I actually asked. It's kind of jumping ahead, but so during this time of year, so there's like Thanksgiving recently and there's Christmas. There's the expectation or the desire, the need, like to spend time with family or like to travel. And I'll share a little bit about my own experience. Was this last Thanksgiving, we had family who wanted to have a big Thanksgiving dinner, and there was one part of our family that came in from a state, another part of our family that came in from another state, and we were invited to go to this. And me and my wife didn't feel comfortable, and it was a really hard conversation and a really hard decision to make. But that brings up the question that I wanted to ask, to ask others, is that during this time of year, a lot of people, and especially a lot of youth, they feel pressure to spend time with their loved ones or to travel to see their loved ones, but they want a social distance. And so I'm not asking for what they should do, but just advice on how do you handle that pressure? How do you handle those expectations? And what advice would you have about having those tough conversations? and Jill or Emily can go first. It's
Um, I've been thinking a lot about this one, Clifford. We kind of, chatted about this. God, I don't, what day was that? Monday, Tuesday? I don't know what day it is anymore. It doesn't matter. I'm wearing green, so I know it's Thursday because I've been wearing green on Thursdays. So, it's a whole thing. I'll tell you all about it later. But, I think, I've been wrestling with this too, that the feeling torn between letting people down, saying no to gatherings, or do I say yes to gatherings? And then, maybe I'm making the wrong decision. I finally saw my parents a couple days ago on Monday. I was wearing red. I saw them on Monday to kind of just check in. We were coming back from the western part of the state, and we passed through there in Enid, and we met with them. We all wore masks. We stayed out on the patio, and I hadn't seen them since last February. And the whole time I felt not present. Like I was in my head. My folks are both 70 as of this year, and I'm like, oh my God, like what if I've picked up? We had to transport a kiddo from the hospital, but I kept thinking like, oh my God, what if I like picked up virus on my clothes and the wind is going to blow just right and they're going to catch it. Like I wasn't even present with my parents that I've missed because I was so worried about the what ifs, and I've heard that experience from a lot of people, like we want to be close to each other because it feels natural to be. And then we left, we didn't hug, it was just kind of like, we got up and we're like, okay, bye. And left, and it was so weird. So yeah, I've struggled kind of with this too, figuring out, that desire for connection, which is what we do in times of stress and during the holidays. But then like, oh my God, what if I make this decision and it causes harm, or robs me of future opportunities? I know that's hard for a lot of us. Generally, my answer to myself, and I've had to really have some hard conversations with myself, is, I need to make the decision that I feel is in the best interest of everybody. So for me, a lot of it has been, I live in this corner of the house. You guys can see like, this is my life. And I'm not going, I have my groceries delivered. Like I am like this weird little paranoid cave woman, but I keep thinking, when in doubt, I asked myself the question, what's going to let me lay my head on the pillow tonight, knowing I did the best that I could. And I did the best decision that I knew to do at the time. And for me, that has been, abstaining from any visits that are not absolutely necessary right now. And it's tough. And you keep wondering, what if that was my last opportunity, or what if? But I have to say, Jill, you did the best you could, and you made what felt like the right decision at the time. And then try to let myself sleep that night, because it is tough. So that's me. I keep going back to, what is the best thing you can do at this moment with the information I have right now? Hindsight's 2020. I've got this information right now. What's going to let me put my head on the pillow, knowing I did the very best that I could? So that's me.
Thank you so much. I love everything you said there. And Emily, do you have any thoughts on that you'd like to share?
Sure. Yeah, I think it's really, it's really difficult because, especially during, this time of year, people center like family and get together and, togetherness and how that looks. And we are used to togetherness being an in-person kind of thing. So you hug or you share food or you, all sorts of things like that. And it depends on, the group of people that you're in and, your culture and things like that. And so I think it's difficult because we put such a high value, like, especially on this time of the year, as a, because it is the holidays and stuff like that. And so what's kind of helpful for me, and like speaking as someone who has like worked in lots of places where I didn't have like the ability to take off over like the holiday season, or if you work retail, like you're working on, so it's like you can't. I'm from Austin, and so that's a 6-hour drive from Norman. And so if I'm going, like it can't just be a like a overnight thing and come back, because like driving can take it out of you. And so there have been times that. So maybe for me, it's a little bit easier because I've had experiences where like, oh, I'm not there, but my family still knows I care about them, that I still know that they care about me and stuff like that. But, obviously without the extra anxiety that comes with, a pandemic. And so,
Yeah, so one of the things that I knew from the is that dogs would be involved in this. So
They
My
have a
dog
lot of
looked
opinions
up,
about
like,
social distancing and the lack thereof. They don't understand social distancing, as you saw, because they like to get all up in my business. But they are currently keeping us safe from probably the neighborhood cat that has started walking by. So, doing the best I can in the circumstances I'm given, right? And so I think that's kind of like the model, the 2020, do the best you can with the information that you can. And, you know, I think that something that I've been working on is kind of working to see other people who might not be acting in the same way I am, or, projecting their, beliefs in the same way, and trying to understand maybe where they might be coming from, because it's really easy to slip into like the shame and blame of other people, I think. So I'm definitely, I know in the comments, let's see, who was it? Becky said that, I wear my mask for other people, but it feels like other people don't care about me because they're kind of throwing a fit about it, and like, relatable, And so I think that, I have a hard time kind of, when you see people posting like gigantic get-togethers with their friends, and then you hear of like someone who's close to you who, obviously isn't able to, or, they get sick, or they have a loved one pass, or they're not able to travel for something, like an important event, like something like a funeral or something, because of restrictions related to COVID precautions. And so, trying to kind of see not like where they're coming from in a devil's advocate kind of way, but, maybe understanding some of the frustrations that people are feeling, and trying to connect as humans instead of just straight up shaming them, which is very easy to do in the comment section of anything. And I've done a lot of, reading and, listening to people who know a lot more about, viral transmission and things, than I do. But then I also know that like my background is working in like sexual violence prevention. So talking to people about things like consent, and and some of the strategies that are used in, in different situations are some like risk reduction things, which, they have different meanings in different places. But, as far as, getting together with other people go, or, managing, like I have, the luxury of working from home right now, and that's not something that everyone has. And so, when we put blame on individual people, instead of maybe like looking at the systems that we exist within and saying like, hey, the reason that the transmission rate is really high for the 18 to 25 age range isn't just because people are going to the bars and partying, but it's also because they live with roommates, and they don't get to choose what their roommates do for a job. And like maybe their roommates work in retail or fast food, or there's so many things, even social services. A lot of social services are, in person with clients, and, being like compassionate and trauma informed, but still having boundaries. And boundaries are hard anyways, and without that extra stress of pandemic life. And so just trying to kind of remember conversations about consent, and like, how can we make it as safe as possible if we are going to do something. And so just remembering that those conversations, it doesn't have to be like a one way or the other way, because, that's not exactly sustainable. But also just understanding, what the different options might be. And yes, like 10,000%, Jill, struggling between like compassion towards others and compassion fatigue. And then also compassion towards others who don't seem to be exhibiting any compassion towards people outside of themselves. So the struggle is very real.
It's hard. I think one of the things I really like that you said was that, um, like this isn't cut and dry. Like it's hard anyways. It's hard for everybody, and I'm not gonna say like that's okay, but understanding that that's just a part of like the world we live in right now makes it a little bit more manageable. So I'd mentioned this before, but I know that that Emily, you work with a lot of youth and young adults, just like me, and Jill works more with young adults and then people who are fully grown up. But I'd mentioned this in the beginning about the compassion fatigue, that a lot of almost all of the youth I've ever worked with are incredibly compassionate. They love taking care of other people. They love being good friends. They want to be good friends. They want to be good partners. They want to do good for others. But how how what is the best way that you've seen for yourself, or maybe even teaching others, to make sure that that you are refilling your cup, that you're taking time for yourself? What is the best way that you've seen for that?
I'm sorry, what was the question? I was
Um,
looking at Rochelle's comment.
oh, what was Rochelle's
Same.
comment? Because I want to make sure that people who are in the audience have time to participate and engage.
So oh, sorry,
yeah,
go ahead. Just she's talking about living alone, and even the neighbor that she connects with had a kind of a COVID scare, and then having to disconnect from the one person, and then feeling like, well, who's in my corner right now, kind of thing. And I can relate to that somewhat. I mean, I was, before I moved in here with my fiance, I lived single for several years, and I would have those feelings like I was choking one night, like I swallowed the wrong way, and like taco, or I was eating tacos, and like I'm sitting there like kind of working it up or whatever, and like I'm sitting there like, okay, I gotta stay calm and get through this, and then my damn cat is like trying to eat my taco off my plate, and I'm like, this is really how this. I mean, I get it, like that feeling of, but then like what you were saying, Rochelle, like coming, like really using it as an opportunity to check into codependency tendency. I did the same thing. Now during COVID, I think that would have been a different experience for me too. Like I know myself, I would not have been probably as level-headed as you are right now, because I'm like super codependent. So but I had to do a lot of that work through, but I get it. I keep thinking about how would I have been if I was doing this, in the single days, a year ago, or I guess it's been 2 years ago now, but yeah, that's something to think about. Like for the folks that do live independently, and there's a lot of benefits to do and, living your own life and doing your own thing for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that feeling for folks who are experiencing that right now. I mean, even if you want to kind of get out there and reconnect with folks, or, or increase social circles or whatever, it's so limiting. So it's more isolating right now than ever. I don't mean to, sound negative, but I'm really trying to think about, probably some of the darkest days of your what that feels like, and how hard, how hard some of the days are. I mean, it's just me and my fiance right now. His kiddo's getting treatment, and it's weird just to be the two of us a lot of the time.
Mm-hmm.
There was one thing I've noticed, because there's times where I feel incredibly lonely, or I feel incredibly like isolated during this time. But I've noticed that I've had to put more work into like digitally or virtually connecting with people.
Yeah.
And that actually used to bother me, because I didn't have to work as hard to put the effort in to connect with people. But what I noticed was that all the people that I would reach out to, because I'm this might sound facetious, but I'm used to people reaching out to me, and this is really the first time in my life I've had to reach out to others.
Yeah.
And one thing that I've noticed is just me, is that now what I've learned is that I always wish I would have reached out more in the past, but I've never ever regretted reaching out to someone.
Yeah.
Like every time I reach out to someone, every time I will call a friend, or message a friend on Instagram, like just ask them how they're doing, and like we start up a conversation. I've never once regretted reaching out to someone, but I've always wished I would have more in the past, like looking back now.
Yeah. Rochelle and I are friends on Facebook. And so I always she always has really interesting posts and like things that make me think too. So I feel like, she's probably coping as well as anybody could, or better, than I could probably, just like the the level of independence and strength and like willing to question stuff and the hard stuff. I love it. Like I'm just like, yeah, like I get fired up when I read some of your posts. But
Thank you.
but yeah, that, you know, we're really finding out what people are made of, I feel like right now. I mean, and it's been amazing to me to see the level of resilience people have. Yeah, I don't even know what else to go with that thought. I'm COVID brain now. Like
That's all right.
2020 brain. I'm done.
That's completely natural, completely normal. I think I want to say is that I think it's important to recognize, and it's important to acknowledge that, like, if you don't feel 100 today, like if you feel like a really brown banana, like that's okay. Like if you're having a bad day or having several bad days, like right now, like this is hard. And so and so to think that you have to always be happy or always be productive or always be doing something, like if you feel that pressure, like it's okay to it's okay to have a bad day, especially right now. But anyways, that brings me I wanted to ask you guys another question, but um, so is there anything that you guys do or that you've seen other people do that seems small, tiny, or insignificant, or like that just seems like it wouldn't help at all, but it actually does make a big impact on you for your own self-care?
Emily, I'm gonna let you talk since I've been gabbing lately.
I'm trying to think. Well, I appreciate, I'm like, I'm an over talker. So I'm like, let me sit back and Jill will share something and then I can share something off of that because you're very wise. And also I have a tendency to monopolize conversations. So I think what's been interesting about stuff is that like some of the things that people are doing to maybe like reclaim a little bit of joy are things that are often kind of like stuff that other people like scoff at. And so, but I like that they're, you know what, if you are someone who is a Christmas person and you want to put up your tree after Halloween, that doesn't affect me at all, And so a lot of the times people are caught up in like, oh, like someone's going to criticize me or judge me for doing this, or, oh, I like this, thing that isn't cool. And so usually there's a lot of like thoughts and concern around like, oh, what are other people going to think of me? And so people seem to be acknowledging like, oh, you're going to think I'm a loser, but I already have, my something up, or we have already done this. And a lot of it's related to Christmas and things like that, because I know a lot of people who celebrate Christmas, not to devalue any other important holiday this year, but or just things like, you know what, I had cake for dinner and that's fine. And it's like, yeah, that's fine. And so I think it's interesting that it's given people like the opportunity to maybe like rebel in little ways, and some of these like little rebellions are like what's giving them joy. And I'm a person who other people find it my partner, we'll just say it. So like sometimes like if it's my birthday or something, my parents will like send me cupcakes because I'm a big like sweets person. And y'all, I will eat cupcakes for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Like no rules. I'm an adult. And my partner is like, Emily, like, did you eat? I'm like, yeah, I had. And he's like, what did you eat? I had a cupcake. What of it? I'm like, cupcakes aren't like every single meal. Well, maybe today they can be. And like, maybe I'll regret it if I don't feel so hot, or like, I'm like, oh, I could use something other than sugar to keep myself alive. But you know what? If you want to have that, that's totally fine. Jill, memes. So yeah, leave your tree up year round. You know what? You can have a Valentine's tree. You can have a whatever tree. But also, yes, I'm obsessed with memes. I think I actually was talking to a friend yesterday and I was like, memes are it's the glue that's keeping our country together right now. And so because like people will share something and it's like super relatable. And I know you can appreciate that, Clifford, because you're a meme person. And so I definitely appreciate that, and seeing other people's like humor and things like that. Yeah. very long-winded answer. I don't know if I gave.
No, it's no. I think, and it's probably obviously like it's like like whatever you want to, like, whatever makes you happy, do it. Like it does, and it doesn't have to be like these big things of like, oh, I'm going to. I mean, I can't think of anything really big because everything I do right now is really small. But I think that's important because the only things that most people can do right now are really small things, but those really small things have a really, really big impact. Um, just the other day, I've recently gotten into cast iron cooking, and I made this really healthy meal, like this really healthy Mediterranean long grain chicken and rice meal. It was really, really good. And it tasted healthy and it was healthy. But guess what happened 2 hours later? We're like super hungry again. And my wife was like, um, that was a really good meal and I love you, but I'm hungry again. I was like, what do you want? She was like, I'm gonna order pizza. And so like we did that and we sat on the couch, like our kids were asleep. It was midnight having pizza and watching a Hallmark Christmas channel. And but that's something little, but it made us happy. But I think what you're saying is like it's those little things make a huge difference. So yeah, but thank you for sharing that. Jill, do you have any thoughts that you'd like to add?
Yeah, there's like, and everybody's kind of reminded me of some of this stuff. So yeah, I have bought a bunch of Christmas junk, and I bought like the traditional. Okay, I need to back up. So I was doing that. I did this presentation on self care for, I think it was the Department of Education a couple months ago, and one of the participants suggested this book called The Little Book of Hygge, and it's spelled Hygge, and it is kind of so that the Danish people are some of the happiest in the world, despite the fact that they, they have a climate kind of like Alaska where they don't have a lot of sunshine. Their days are shorter and they have, crazy winter, but they've still found little ways of finding joy and warmth and connection with others. And the word hygge, it doesn't really translate to our language, but it's that feeling of little things and coziness and connection and love and peace. So I got the audiobook and was listening to it before I went to sleep. And it's real cute because he's got the author has kind of he's got his Danish accent, and it's got little music in the background. But the idea of kind of cultivating this feeling in my space, because I don't leave the house ever, but like it's candles and pleasant music, and they try to connect with each other, which we can't do. We're having to do it differently. But coffee, like just realizing how much I love coffee, or I'll get a fancy little creamer, or my collection of mugs is ridiculous right now. And I have been, I keep buying mugs. I need to stop, but I'm like, this is my mood today, buy mug. Or my mother always grew up on, like balancing her chakras. And so I ended up buying a set of crystals, to like chakra crystals. I know, I can't even believe I'm saying this out loud, but I've coordinated. So there's 7, through the rainbow, red to violet or whatever. And I've coordinated my outfits each day. So red is Monday. And then I go through the rainbow. And I try to wear the same outfits and even use the same color dishes that day. It's the weirdest thing, even to say it out loud. I'm like, what is wrong with me? But
No, it's okay. It's totally okay.
yeah, it's my 2020 weird. It works, and it's like I celebrate this color each day. I'm like, ooh, I've got this green shirt that I love, so because today's Thursday, and then I think about the part of your body for green, heart chakra. So it's here. So I think about, if I meditate or deep breathe, I think about focusing on this part of my body and how it feels, or what can I do today to connect my heart to others. So I try to focus on those different things. And it's been helpful. It makes me feel connected to my mother. Because when I was a kid, I was always like, oh God, because she'd invite her friends over and they'd all sit around and meditate and burn incense. And I had an interesting childhood, but now I get it. I get how that brought comfort and peace and connection to them. And so I'm trying a little bit of this and that. And, just what are these little details, like colors and smells and flavors, and, just the little things I can enjoy in my weird little space. And it's strange. It's a different way of existing, I guess, but I'm just exploring stuff that helps me feel lifted, even just for a few moments.
I think I think what you're describing for me is like getting lost in the texture of your life. Like,
Yeah.
how does something feel? How does something smell? How does something taste? and pushing out, I guess I don't want to say like the context, but like all of the stuff that's up here that I can't control, I'm going
Yeah.
to push that out, and I'm going to focus on, again, the texture
Because
of
it's
my
all we
life.
can control some days, you know, or and it's the concept of mindfulness. What am I grateful for, or what can I control, or what am I tuned into at this moment? So for me, you know, designing these weird little things I do helps me stay anchored to that, rather than all of this big worldwide stuff I can't control, you know, or thinking about all of the people around the state that are struggling right now that I can't necessarily rescue directly. Maybe I can do things that are helpful to the system, but you know, I have to take care of myself as I can. And it's weird. It is.
So we have 7 minutes left, and I have two more questions for both of you. But so what my first question is, this year is going to be ending soon, and my first question for you is, what are you going to be leaving behind in 2020? And Emily, I'll ask you because Jill has to go do something. So like, what are you going to be leaving behind in 2020?
That's a good question. Also I'm that kind of thinking is like outside of my norm. And so I'm not really like I'm not good at like journaling. Maybe I should watch the session that you and Christine did, and stuff like that. But like self-reflection isn't necessarily like my specialty / comfort zone, which is why I told you like, you want me to talk in a self-care thing? Like, sure, we'll give it a shot. But I think that I don't know that I'd like leave anything behind per se, because I feel like some of it has, you know, maybe I've learned from things, or maybe some of the expectations that I had, you know, I think some of like the larger expectations that like existed pre-pandemic, are some of the things that like, you know, didn't always sit quite right, but I didn't necessarily have the language to describe that. And so I think that I've probably like, because of, you know, those things and those challenges, I've learned a little bit about framing things, or some of the conversations that we've had about I'm leaving Oklahoma behind. That made me giggle. So I think that although I'm using very great, so we will be sad to lose you. But you know, I think some of the you know, I'll take on the lessons learned and hopefully leave some of the like the, you know, more stressful pieces behind, but also like, you know, it's important to think about how, you know, how have we reacted to the stresses, and what ways can we do better, and which ways can we grow, and you know, how can I do my part to make sure that I'm making it better for other people, and myself included, because
Well,
we are important as well.
you kind of answered my next question, but I'll ask it anyways if you would just want to reiterate it. But so I asked you what you're leaving behind, but so what are you going to be taking with you into 2021?
Hopefully lots of lessons and like information. I think that you know, I've been able to do some like deep dive learning, or maybe some like more like shallow exploration, but you know, knowing that, you know, oh, this might be a good thing to check out and learn more about, and just doing that kind of stuff. Like I said, I'm not super great at the like, oh, like setting intentions and personal goals and stuff like that. That is not an area in which I shine. But I think that, you know, I appreciate some of the stuff that I've learned, and, you know, some of the like relationships that I've been able to start making. And even though it does look a little different, you know, then, oh, like let's get lunch or let's get coffee and chit chat. I mean, texting, you know, or like, you know, sharing memes on, you know, when people share stuff in their stories on Instagram. Like, you know, there's weird ways that we have different opportunities to like connect with people that I think when you're focused on the in-person might not be like super accessible. But yeah. Let's see. Becky shared all the regrets that I had at the end of this year. At the end of the day, I still have my health, family, my love for my children, and my program, and that made it all worth it. I love that. That's very sweet.
Yeah. All right, so Jill, same two questions. What are you going to be leaving behind in 2020, and what are you going to be taking with you into 2021?
Okay, so I'm hoping that what I leave behind is my obsession with perfectionism. I'm hoping the virus has given me the opportunity to do that. But so I'm hoping to leave some of that toxic perfectionism that I've had most of my life behind, at least a little bit. And what I'm hoping to gain, or what I feel I'm taking with me is a deeper understanding of myself and a more real connection to myself, and understanding of humans, I guess. So I feel like I've gained a lot, even though I've lost a lot of little things that, I enjoy, like my favorite coffee stand that I would pit stop by on my commute is gone. I mean, I think she went out of business with the shutdown. So there's little things like that I'm like, oh, I miss it. But yeah, I feel like I've gained some deeper stuff, at least personally. I've gained my love of chakra balance. I don't even know how to balance my chakras.
Your love of crystals.
My love of crystals. Yes, it's so fun. I'm trying to look around where I can see them and show you all, but I don't know what I did with them now. I rearranged my desk and I'm like, what did I do? I'm losing it. Whatever.
Yeah, it's okay. One day at a time.
Yeah. I'm like,
Or
I don't know where my crystals
For me,
are.
sometimes it's 1 hour at a time.
I
Yeah.
was gonna say, like, maybe it's like one 15-minute chunk at a time some days, because
Yeah,
like,
for real.
I like Clifford, you had said like, oh yeah, like Jill works with young adults and then some like fully formed adults. And I'm like, I don't know that those actually exist. But like, sure.
I have more wrinkles, but and everything's kind of migrating south on my body. But I feel like maybe I was formed and now I'm becoming malformed. I don't know. Like whatever. I don't even. I'm
You have
41.
the ability
I
to
can
like
sag.
totally reshape yourself.
Yeah.
Like chakras and your physical being.
Yeah. I feel like 41, I've earned the right to sag a little, like whatever. It's how, and I'm gonna grow my wrinkles. I've earned them.
Okay. Thanks for sharing, Jill. Sorry, I'm laughing. This is a fun conversation. So I'm looking at the time and it's 1 o'clock now. And so what I wanted to let everyone know is that at the end of the retreat, you will be getting an email with a link to a survey. So if you could please fill that out, that would be very helpful to us. This helps us give us information on what more you'd like to see, what you liked, what you didn't like. And this is our first year doing this retreat. And so if we have enough information and everyone liked it enough, it'll give us idea for future events. And so if it's anonymous, so you can fill it out. Even though it is anonymous though, you'll still need to put your email address and everything in there, because if you do complete it, then you'll be entered in a chance to win, to be entered into a drawing for some door prizes. So just wanted to throw that out there for everyone. And then thank you again for joining our workshop. And I hope you enjoyed it and it was helpful. And yeah, you liked
Yeah.
it. So.
Yeah, I hope you guys